So, what it's like canvassing for Bernie Sanders? Let me tell you, it's amazing. I actually canvassed for him on Saturday. That was me canvassing first time ever for anyone. To be honest, I am more of a outside observer when it comes to politics, and this time around, I felt like I need to do more. More because there are so many different candidates who are already tainting the political process by flushing in a lot of money and powerful. And also looking at the current political spectrum, I can totally see why some of the candidates are lying, outright lying, and deceiving people and cheating, rigging people, or rigging system and all against Bernie. So I felt that it was a time when I should take a stand. And that's why I started, that's why I canvassed for Bernie. And let me tell you, I was surprised of to see the whole process in the place, which I cannot dive into because if anyone who's interested in canvassing, they should definitely check out Bernie's website to learn more. But what I was surprised was to see so many people energized and ready to go for canvassing for Bernie. It was really a good surprise. I myself slept, very late a night before I went to canvassing, and with only, I don't know, 5 hours of sleep, I managed to get up at 6 ish and then drove to the point where we were boarding bus, and I was surprised to see probably over 50 people in a cold, chilly Atlanta morning. It's not as cold as some of the northern regions for sure, but it was still freaking cold. And when I saw so many people energized coming down there, coming from various part of Atlanta, it was really, really energetic to see the movement itself. And when I interacted with most of them, not all of them, of course, but they were so energetic and they were so ready to canvas for Bernie, and most of them were doing it for the first time as well. So this this goes beyond saying what Bernie is doing. He's bringing people together into the political activism, which not a lot of candidates can say, and having conversations with most of the people there, we all were coming from various point of view. I'm an immigrant myself, so I can't even vote, and still I was there. I didn't find any other immigrant there who cannot vote per se. There were immigrants who are nationalized there, and but I probably was the only immigrant who cannot vote. But that being said, I was having conversations about various political candidates, about various political, um, I would say, decision making and what's actually is going on. And I can say that people who are canvassing for Bernie are very smart. Some of them are well read, well researched. Uh, some of them have good understanding of the entire political spectrum. Some of them were so compassionate and empathetic. I was surprised. The whole experience, without getting into detail, once we reached to the South Carolina, uh, I think I can say the city, Orangeburg, um, and we then reached out to various communities, and I was partnered up with this amazing woman called Mel, and Mel and I, we were just canvassing to various houses, and I could see she was so compassionate while talking with people, that I can see, like, that's how most of the Bernie supporters are. In fact, just having wonderful conversations around people and listening to their stories. Why, not why, but some of the people who were canvassing in a different uh, regions, or different sectors, they actually walked miles to reach from one house to another house. So you can imagine the excitement to do that for any candidate. I'm sure in the past there were some candidates which could kindle that excitement into people, but I haven't seen that in a long time. And especially people spending their weekend, or at least one day of the week, uh, canvassing for a candidate says a lot. I can see the energy riling up in the Bernie's camp, and I'm sure that this energy gonna add on to the momentum which he's building throughout the nation. And I am super pumped up to see how this election gonna go. I can tell you that most of the people are aware of what's going on, and most of the people who aren't aware will definitely become aware because of the biases of media, and hopefully because of people uh, like like us uh, who kind of pulled our hands to go up in field and share the information of why we actually think that Bernie is a right candidate for president. Since the beginning, I had only three candidates in my mind: Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang. Unfortunately, Andrew Yang dropped out, but I think that these three candidates could be the face of the Democratic Party, could be would be a would be able to serve U.S. in the best form. And I'm hopeful that Bernie embrace Andrew Yang's UBI, so that will be amazing policy in the list of policies Bernie has. So, which seems pretty unlikely at this moment. But that being said, um, I can see why people are rooting for Bernie, especially because of Medicare for All, which itself is gonna impact in a positive way to like millions of people. And all the other candidates who at some point were for Medicare for All and chickened out after a while have seen the decrement in their polls as well as in their delegate counts, except for Pete Buttigieg, who actually rigged Iowa caucus. And I'm actually uh, scared, but scared is not the right word. But I'm sure that Pete's team is still planning some nefarious options, in the Nevada caucus. So let's see how that's gonna go. But one of the other thing which the mainstream media haven't got it yet, and still try to push down this narrative of Bernie Bros. If they look on ground, if they come to any caucus and not caucus but canvassing, but also just interact with Bernie supporters on ground, they would understand that that's entirely false narrative. The narrative of Bernie Bros. That is, and it's mind-boggling that they are so much acting as a snowflake, just tangled with this Bernie bro narrative that some of the supporters are being mean to them online. First of all, that's such a cop out point. Like, especially when you, as a media person, says outrageous things and cannot digest the criticism coming on your way. That's such a hypocritical position to be at. I do think that people online has to be more mindful of what they are posting. But at the same time, people are people. There are going to be a lot of ton of trolls who would just post just to get reactions, just to kind of feel better about themselves or whatever that may be. But holding that against Bernie is such a stupid argument. And that kind of goes on to say that Bernie has a history and record of being on the right side of pretty much all the positions he take, and mainstream media, when they cannot hold him accountable, or when they cannot um, criticize him on his positions, which historically has been on the right side, they just try to create this narrative of bullshit called Bernie Bros, uh, which I'm glad that they are doing it, because that's exactly what gonna push people to vote for Bernie, and that's what happened back in 2016 as well. Media was riling against Trump so much that it pushed a lot of people to vote for him, and this Bernie Bro narration gonna actually end up in Bernie's favor. That's what I think. But overall, I would say, regardless of which political candidate you stand for, just go and try to check the people who support that political candidate and why do they support him. That's the main reason, right? When you just support a specific candidate based on what mainstream media is, you know, filling in your head, it might be disingenuous for sure, and doesn't reflect the actual reason what energized people. And when it comes to Bernie's movement, I can see people are energized not just because of what Bernie stands for, but also because they can see that he's the only candidate who won't flip flop on the issue, because he has been consistent for 30, 40 years. Imagine that. Whereas other candidates have flip flops so easily, especially when they get like a lot of ton of money from different donors. And Bernie's movement is built on millions of donors who are actually donating very little amount of their hard-earned money, compared to the billionaires spending millions of dollars targeting, Bernie and his policies. So I have no doubt that this momentum, this energy, gonna carry forward and gonna be turned into Bernie's nomination. And if Democratic Party try to rig this again, as they did back in 2016, I have no doubt that Trump gonna win again, because it will discourage people from voting, and uh, it will it will create a chaotic moment where people have to choose between two lesser evil, which is not an ideal choice. Like, it never is. So overall, just to kind of wrap this up, I think um Bernie's supporters are some of the compassionate, some of the smartest, knowledgeable, well researched, well rounded people I've interacted with. And I am excited to see this movement carrying forward, and hopefully um, we'll see Bernie's nomination very soon.